here is the highlight right now.
Yeah,
Valdez.
what a great start to the highlights here. This is exactly what we wanted to see. What a fantastic dive here by Jin-Air.
Wait for it's so long. The first kill comes in while it's still a 5v2. Yeah. You've never seen anything like that. That's why you watch the KeSPA Cup. You miss out on moments like that. But unfortunately, the following moments could not be seized enough. I know that's an annoying turn of phrase this season on the Jin-Air team. But regardless, the moment that he picked up, this is actually a nice individual play from C's to last as long as he did. The moment that that happened and this went even for Jin-Air, the rest of the game just a walkover for them as Reverse Gaming kind of fell apart with their low damage combo.
Yeah, kind of. Definitely fell apart in a big way. At least the Galio got away to give off a good bounty on this play, as everybody on the side of Reverse Gaming just went really far into the enemy side of the battlefield here, and especially CU just gets pwned before he can use anything. Flash, heal, ultimate, nothing. He just goes down. Az goes down by himself on the bottom side, trying to get to the fight. It was just disaster over here for Reverse Gaming, and the Jin-Air Team B lineup were really happy about that one, because after that, they looked really far ahead, really fantastic in this game.
Able to cut through with their higher damage numbers, and the fact that Reverse Gaming was kind of throwing themselves at the enemy team. Looking over this, and you just see, on average, we're talking about 1,000 to 3,000 or 4,000 advantage for the carries of Jin-Air. Ended up being a comfortable victory, and in spite of that, we're going to have quite a few roster changes to get to very shortly, but 28 minutes 41. Definitely, if you come in not watching the VOD, you like clean victory from Jin-Air. You know, it looked pretty straightforward. If you watch the VOD, just like that old score meme, you know that the truth was pretty far away from that analysis. Jin-Air did not have a fantastic game, but they were the better team of the two, and now we get to introduce you to a whole new Jin-Air.
That's the good point of this. We're getting into game number 2. This is what we were expecting for game 1. The A-team roster. It's Linderong, Malrong, Grace, Stitch, and Nova making their way in as the B-team roster make their way out. So this should be even more one-sided than game number 1 is what we're expecting.
You just throw in over 100, around 200 games of LCK experience off the bench. This is all players who have played in the LCK compared to 5 players who've never played in the LCK. That should mean that the level of the calamity of that turret dive probably can't be replicated with these 5 players. And for once, that's something you don't want to replicate. That's the good type of not being able to copy someone else. Meanwhile, Reverse Gaming, they're coming in with 5 players. They do have a coach compared to KG, which is 5 players. No coach. There is a coach here, but the coach has got a whole lot to work on after the 3-0 loss that kept them out of challenges yesterday. They're now 1-0 down, and we'll see if they can fight their way or at least look respectable in game number 2.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal for them, especially after they had a pretty big lead in game number 1 and then essentially just threw it away. We'll have to see how much this A-team of Jin-Air can do, because this is the first time we're going to see what will be their main LCK roster come up here in KeSPA Cup on the new patch all together as a new roster. I know it's not the ideal team to show their stuff against, but hey, if they crush them big time, maybe that's a good sign going into LCK, because I know that some people are rating Jin-Air maybe middle of the pack, others are rating them down towards the bottom of LCK. So they do have somewhat to prove with their new roster here, starting off with the Reverse Game.
What you can say about Jin-Air is there's no team on paper they're definitely better than in the LCK. That means they could be as low as number 9, number 10. You might say Battle Comics, but Sandbox Gaming looked good today. So overall, I think it's very difficult to rate Jin-Air absolutely categorically better than anyone else. Maybe, again, Battle Comics or Sandbox Gaming, as they're now known, is the one you can call there. So yes, they could definitely fight it to deceive, but we didn't really get too much. We're probably not going to see all 5 of the starting members of Game 1 play together again for a while. We might see some mix-ups, though, but I'm excited to see these 5 players and the whole 10-man roster revealed, because even when it comes to Jin-Air's next task, which we imagine has to be much more of a tricky one than Reverse Gaming, if they are to take down Reverse Gaming, even who the starting 5 is there, it might not just be a wholesale change. We might see some mix and match between the 2 squads.
Sure. I mean, definitely Chungo seemed pretty decent on the Swain. Obviously, that kind of matchup up against a Galio that, you know, it's not going to be the same level of an LCK Galio. Like, you're playing against Faker, he's playing Galio. you're probably going to have a much harder time than Chungo did on the Swain up against Aurora. But still, he looked kind of good in general. I'd say his mechanics are there on the Swain, and we'll have to see how Grace plays, right? He was definitely one of the players on Jin Air where I was not very impressed with him in the LCK last year for 2018, and Chungo, I feel like, might be the closest person to taking over a spot on the roster.
Now, I think we should talk about this off air, but what I will say on air is I think we can kind of have a Lava Award of a player who didn't show much at the start and then had a chance to blossom in his second year, right? And I actually think Grace could be this player. I see a lot of him in solo rank watching other streams, popping off in the mid lane. So if I'm thinking about the Lava Award, and that's right, it's kind of like a positive Dade Award in some ways, a surprising blossoming of a player, I actually think that could be Grace. I think Grace could really show something next year, and this is pretty uninformed. Like, I don't know how he's doing in scrims. It's only based on the fact that he does quite well in solo rank. But I want to hear some other nominations for that, not necessarily on the spot now, but over time. Because it's a fun thing to think about these players that have a really big blossoming in their career. So let's see. I have some higher expectations than most for Grace in particular. And now the rubber hits the road. Now he gets his first professional game since kind of being sharing in all the misfortunes of the Jin Air 2018 in general, but definitely 2018 summer. Let's see if he can level up and have a good performance against what should be one of his easier opponents.
Yeah, it definitely should be. I'm excited to see what he can bring into the new season of LCK. This is, again, KeSPA Cup, where we essentially get a chance to see all of these new rosters come together. All the players from 2018 show their new stuff on the patch. Grace never struck me as a fantastic, aggressive assassin player, which I feel like might hurt him going into the meta. Again, we don't know what's going to happen in 2019, how that will be changed. Maybe a couple of changes here or there make the meta go back to that old slow meta, which I think nobody really wants, but definitely could hurt some players, whereas help other players. Again, Chungo didn't play an assassin or anything like that, but again, we'll just have to see. It's definitely something to think about as we do go along, and yeah, it's taken a little bit of a while to get into game number 2.
We had 5 players change, right?
Yeah.
So usually the break is a bit longer in OGN and SPO days. When you have 1 player change, 2 player change, 5 players change, it's a lot of kind of fixing to be done and beta testing. But again, what we want to do, what we want to shy away from is just leaving a player in a box. This player is so good, this level of good, and they're never going to be a kind of 2 standard deviations away, never going to really get a lot better. That's
always change.
That's what we thought about Lava, and he really challenged that. And I think 1 player a year really does end up doing that. Will that be Grace? Will it be Malrang, who a lot of people don't really even know because he was on Ever 8 Winners, looked kind of good, had some poor games. He innovated some stuff. Jungle Jax was his first. He was the first one to really popularize tank Jungle Jax, Cinder Hulk, and staying away from the Trinity Force. People kind of crib it in and out depending on the meta, but Jax Jungle is something that he was big on. He's also been innovative. Jace Jungle is one that he loves. And you go in his solo queue, he's still playing Jace Jungle. So who's to say he sees reverse gaming, sees the sort of farming jungle like a Gragas and says, what about a Jace Jungle to come and pound away some kills? It's a very possible thing. Jin Air Green Wings, they want to be aggressive in early game. Malrang can fit into that. Can this Jin Air Green Wings roster be the one that gets rid of that 94-minute or bust meta? They don't have Teddy. They don't have the guy you're 100% certain can really do in the late game. Stitch is no slouch. Stitch is a very good AD. Carries Callista. Kind of been famous for a long time, even when he was on Samsung Galaxy. But even though he's been able to play that role a little bit over in the LMS, just like Skatch or now Gango has been able to play that role in LJL and now is on KT, we don't think of him. It's so hard to be the Teddy win condition. It's so hard to be a fountain laser in the late game. I think Jin Air is going to try and match the times. Will they try and fail? Will they actually be able to succeed? It's still to be written, and that's kind of the wonder of the KeSPA. Like you say, this is very much the new car smell is around. This is very much the shiny paint is around. Everything is new, and we're still learning.
We are still learning. You were mentioning how Malrang kind of has weird jungle picks, the Jungle Jax, the tankiness, and the Jungle Jace more aggressive, but he was definitely a guy that was overall very aggressive and getting in your face, can play a mean Camille from time to time, so he could be another guy that just fits very well into this kind of meta. I think about other guys on the team, Linderong. He was never really somebody who impressed you on how Life
Darius
was doing much outside of Darius and his
You could definitely say
meme.
You could definitely go say like Darius, Jax, Graces LeBlanc had some good games. So we're going single picks, right? Stitch, I think a lot of people. He's one of again. We got this weird catch of mostly 80 carries that where like substitutes or low level in the LCK left, and now people are like, same with Snowflower, right? Snowflower was good, but now he kind of jumped ahead because other supports fell away and struggled in the 2018 season. Feels like Stitch is kind of there because people look at Stitch and they're like, why didn't KT get this guy? Why isn't he on a recognized top 4 orgs? That's kind of an interesting thing where Stitch does have some respect, and Stitch, I'd say Callista, but his Lucian is pretty good as well. Like, he can definitely play the meta very well. And then in the spot where Nova's Rakan kind of only when it comes to last year. A couple of okay Alistair games, but it's one of those things where you have 5 players where you're like, or 4 players at least of the 5, where it's like maybe that one pick. But they can do it on 2 and 3. If they can replicate the Darius level for Linderong on 3 other champions, you're like, oh, actually, this guy's pretty good. This guy's mid-tier. If they can have all 4 players push to mid-tier with 4 effective champions, then Jin Air is no longer the also round. Then they are that plucky team that can take wins off the best. The Robin Hood, right? That was the Jin Air thing, was they would always rob a win from SKT and then lose to the last team. But they were always in the middle tier. Your worry is if they can no longer beat those top teams and they still lose to the bottom teams, then it's 2018 where they're battling against relegation the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many variables that go into a roster. Like, who knows? Maybe these guys are really great friends, and they're going to have great teamwork together. They work well together in scrims. They somehow get passionate all together, and they move up a level all together. You were talking about standard deviations for one player, but it's always about expectations, right? You look at some of the really strong rosters, and you say, okay, yeah, Gen.G's roster looks pretty good. There's some question marks there. SKT's roster, obviously. Everybody's hyped now that Faker's going to have really strong players around him. But who knows? Maybe that just kind of flops as well. We don't really know until they come out and play and show their stuff over time periods in the LCK, right? The KeSPA Cup is more of just like the taste, right? We see, okay, this is interesting, get you hyped for LCK. And then once we get to LCK, will these players have had and used those 2 months to scrim very well, or have they kind of, fought over some stuff? Maybe some of the players don't mesh well together. You got to use a player that's not as good, like a sub, just because there's some rife within the team or something like that. There's so much in the background that people don't necessarily talk about, but I mean, it's a team game just like any other team sport, and all of that stuff is very present in any LCK team.
Well, hopefully the setups here for the Jin Air side, which we have to assume is the reason we had a little bit of a longer delay. We had a pretty smooth day, so we can afford a little bit of time to get into the second game here. The wholesale change, we had that once before. You'll remember the Hanwha Life Esports brought out the entire B squad. That actually added a little time. We're getting a little bit of information here that maybe there's a monitor cable that's not working. Remember, everyone has very specific settings, so I'm sure that's related. So thank you for the update there, Monsty, on the production side. So we're going to have a bit of a mini podcast.
Yeah, I mean, well, you don't want to jinx it, right? We could have a very long one.
You can jinx it.
You don't want to sell yourself short on how long the podcast could be.
You sold yourself short. I'm always on the money.
Okay, so
never called it wrong.
Definitely going to be a mini podcast then?
Yes.
Okay.
Mini podcast over here, guys.
Just some monitor cable switched out, and we'll get right into the game, just like yesterday.
Exactly. And look what, even if I'm wrong and it's 20 minutes, relative to yesterday, I'm right.
Yeah,
and being relatively right and being sort of right is what I pride myself in.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
We were, we were talking for a long time yesterday. The podcast went on for how long?
But we had a lot.
45 minutes, 50 minutes.
We had a lot in the can, right? Because it's been a very long off season, so there's all those topics.
How did we stop you from talking about all this stuff that whole time, Papa Smith?
It was very difficult.
Bursting, trying to get it out of yourself.
Unfortunately, Riot just didn't have any technical problems, so we couldn't have any podcasts at World. So I just had all these podcast topics that I've been
right? Yeah.
Well, for podcast fans.
True.
People love that stuff. People say it's better than the games. And you know what? Sometimes
it is. Sometimes it is.
What are you talking about? The last game was a 5-star classic.
Yeah, that was fun.
This is going to back it up. Another 5-star classic for tomorrow. Everything's going great.
Some of my games looked like that one that we had just before, not going to lie, but generally what happens in Korean solo queue especially is we have a dive like that and then 2 people leave the game. Instead of leaving, they do even the next worst thing, which is stay in the game but AFK and just troll you the entire time by, selling all their items and running it down.
I mean, we got really unlucky in my promotion game that we played the other day with the LeBlanc. She wasn't really too invested in the victory, that's for sure. But she built an AP item, so she got a Luden's Echo, and I'm like, all right, she's not happy, but Moby boots Luden's Echo. Nothing's wrong so far, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the snowball item on top of the Ludens was the Youmuu's Ghost Blade, which is not really what we were looking for in that game. We're doing very well around that. The bot lane was popping off.
Yeah.
And it was looking like we could pull
really
it through, but the LeBlanc, see, she didn't really want to play League of Legends. She wanted to play hide and go seek.
Yeah.
She was really good at hiding. She was hiding in spots and did
Yeah.
not expect
She was
action
good
to
at
happening.
that.
She was never found. So actually, she probably won the game she was playing. She was the winner of hide and go seek. Unfortunately, I was the loser of my promos, and that was unfortunate.
Yeah. Definitely threw out a lot of reports on her, but definitely did not get banned.
I think we hit. I think we hit the reports. Those skill shots hit. Hopefully, Riot Games hasn't confirmed that just yet.
That's the thing. Like, she would play hide and seek, and then every once in a while there'd be like a really close team fight, and she'd like kill one person, but then she'd stop moving and then let herself get killed. She's like just giving us the taste of maybe coming back. And it's
again,
like, please help us. But then
when she was doing that, because she was also 3-minute hide and go seeking at times.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she'd use those 400 gold chunks to get closer and closer to a Youmuu's Ghost Blade, which wasn't really helping us out in the grand picture. And then, you know what? Her house was on fire. The Nexus was exposed. And you know what? You could not stop her playing hide and go seek. So I think she'd be pretty good at being one of those, those beef eaters, the British security guards that stand outside the Buckingham Palace and don't move if you try and poke in front of them. Like,
do you call them beef eaters?
I mean, beef eater is the name of actually an alcohol that has them on there. That's the first thing I thought of.
Okay.
But no shout out there. No sponsors on this one. But basically what we're trying to say is
yesterday, no.
she was very dogged, Like, I feel like the LeBlanc, if she was like writing an essay, she wouldn't get distracted by outside noise.
Sure,
She knew what she wanted to do, and she did it, damn it, and she won the game.
She was very focused,
Yes.
She was really good at typing a lot, too.
The lure of LP never faced her.
She trolled our Lee Sin so hard that the Lee Sin started trolling as well.
Oh.
That was like she gained a follower, actually. She was typing so much, and at first Lee Sin was like, no, come on, we can play the game, it's fine. And he was really good, actually. Lee Sin was popping off.
He was.
Bot lane was doing really good.
I was
all this
okay.
Kind of thing.
I was farming.
You're doing well in the top lane because for some reason whenever we do and you fill, you're always top lane. And then all of a sudden, just over time, Lee Sin just couldn't handle it. And LeBlanc got to him and literally persuaded him to come over to her side, and then he was also trolling. And, but that LeBlanc, not banned, still playing today. So you might run into her if you're playing on the Korean server. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, Iron 5. Catch her there.
That's for me and Pop Art.
Yeah!
The secret's out,
We can be Iron 5, because remember, Iron 5 technically doesn't exist. Just like the Wood 5 of before.
Yeah.
Iron 5. That's us. At all moments, Iron 5.
I mean, when we stream, definitely just getting on someone else's account.
Streaming?
Doesn't matter. It's fine. But I'm excited about the next year and the new patches and stuff, the new ranked ladder. I think those
you
kinds of
definitely get
changes
your
are
fix
fun.
fast. I feel like every solo queue game is decided by 13 minutes. Like, you kind of know who's going to win. Not like pro games are massively different, but the degrees are different, even with the shutdowns. Now, it feels like the game's either it's 90% decided at 13 minutes, or there's an epically massive throw with the bounties. That's kind of what happens in solo queue.
Yeah. I mean, it's solo queue, right? So just as you're saying, one team can be ahead, and then they'll just throw it back, and then it'll go back to the other team, and then back and forth. And speaking of which, throwing it back and forth between the teams and the pick and
Let's
ban.
go.
Okay, not wasting any more time with this one. Jinner on blue, reverse gaming on red. Can they do better than last game?
It is a whole new Jinair if you're joining us late, or if you ignored the first game. Well, go back and watch it first, but the second game, Jinair changes out 5 members, reverse gaming. They've got no one to sub in, unfortunately for them, so they will be sticking with the same 5-man roster. Lissandra will be the first ban here. See how reverse gaming want to approach this game. Went for, again, one of those one-threat comps that feel a little bit anemic, a little bit behind the times. We saw KeSPA no more allowed. In KeSPA Cup for now, only a single KeSPA has hit the Rift. And we'll see what Jinair want to first pick, because there are a lot of flex bans on Assassins, you'll remember, in game number 1.
Wouldn't be surprised to see some of the same. I don't know if the Alistair will get through on the side of reverse. They may decide to ban that one out instead of giving Jinair the first pick on that one, as they highly prized that Alistair. We are going to see another Lucian coming through on the ban list. Jinair just really not happy with that one. And, Stitch, a very top-level AD carry. I'm sure he's got a good read on what the bottom lane meta is right now. We heard a lot about Lucian being super strong down there. We see it a lot in solo queue. And no surprise that he's banned out 2 times now.
Yeah, he's a great Lucian player, but they don't want to first pick it. Seems to be the read I would have on that one. So definitely no worries about Lucian in his champion pool. The Kalista is always the one we want to see from him because he is a top-level Kalista player. Waiting for the final ban here on the blue side. It's going to be to the Camille. So Aftershock Camille, again, we're kind of thinking about where people want to go, and Malrang. Would love to see him back on the Jax. That's his old favorite. The Jace, always a possibility. It is a KeSPA Cup, and they're against Reverse Gaming, so if you want to debut with a bang, which Malrang got away with a lot when he was on Ever 8 Winners. Love to see some fun stuff come up. And speaking of fun stuff, Akali will be locked in first for the side of Jin.
Well, you're left between Aatrox and Akali. I would probably also ban out the Aatrox, especially with the sort of flexibility he has. Akali also has that kind of flexibility, but, you know, some small nerfs to the Shroud, and suppose she can be contained a little bit better. This is the question I had for Reverse Gaming. What are you going to go for in response? It looks like Nico will come out for the first time in this series.
Quite bold, because if you look down the match histories, Grace is most played as Akali, so mid lane Akali is the most likely. Still could happen for Linderung. Everyone can play it now. After Worlds, where the teams that couldn't flex Akali and Aurelia kind of lost because of it. Everyone's been practicing those picks. Still could be a bot lane. Could see Nico Alistair bot lane here for Reverse Gaming. So, bit of a evolving story. See how Jinair want to round out the first round. Support most likely to be picked up here. Could still go for Thresh, even though Alistair's a good blocker champion. But instead, they want their solo lanes hot and fast. They're going to get both of them. And both these picks can go against Nico in the mid lane. As we saw Victor, after that first augment, the Death Ray comes out, able to push in Nico and make it look amazingly balanced. So, like in the Victor draft here, flexible solo lanes coming through from Jinair. Support or jungle expected to be this third pick here. But actually, they're going to rewrite that expectation, just go for a tier list AD carry choice. First Ezreal of the day coming through here. So much Ezreal impressing yesterday. Move, for example, on GC Busan, looking great on it. Saw great Ezreal in that second series. Ezreal locked in. And now, the chances of Nico going bot lane are going up.
Well, he's hovering a lot of stuff that would be exciting. Even the Karthus, thinking about it, but then just going straight for the Galio. So upping that % chance that Nico is not going to go into the mid lane.
Cool to see that one. I'm excited to see the Nico bot lane. I would have preferred to see it with a support that can actually help prep the minions, because if you just put a couple of ranged auto attacks from your support, the Q and the burst on that ability after it kills a minion can do some great pushing. Still, probably going to be Alistair and the Nico for a lot of lockdown. And you know what? Counters locked down pretty good, a Morgana. So no Morgana support to ruin the fun of the Nico and the Alistair bot.
What is going to be the focus here for the Jinair side? Going to take away another jungler here. No Camille, no Kha'Zix now on the board. Still have to pick for the top and the jungle side. On the side here of Reverse Gaming.
Kha'Zix ban to shut down jungle ops in the Nocturne as well. So maybe trying to force them into a match damage only comp here. Taking out some really reliable physical damage dealers from the jungle. Could also be mind games on the side of Jinair. Talia Gragas was kind of the big picks for Az when he was playing on this roster in summer season. Still finds 80 damage from the jungle. Still going to be Lee Sin rolling through with but don't need to be a top laner as the final pick for Reverse Gaming. We've got solo lanes, we've got the AD carry, Jinair, jungle, and support. What we're looking for, and speaking of AD damage, Malrang playing quite a lot of the Xin Zhao in Challengers over the course of 2018. But we're going to jump on that to look for a very strong skirmishing jungler. Power everywhere on the side of Jinair, and just a bit of safety from the Tahm Kench to round out the draft.
Very quickly picked up that one. He didn't waste any time with that. Ezreal Tahm Kench, definitely one of the most famous bottom lane duos of 2018, so no surprise there. Nova can play some Tahm Kench as well.
And it's a 1-3-1 on the side of Jinair. They have basically no engage at all outside of Xin Zhao just throwing his body and hoping he gets the perfect ultimate. There is very low engage, but flexible solo laners has been a win condition again and again in the recent meta. While both these solo laners were very high-ticket choices in terms of the World Championships, Galio and Urgot pretty impervious in the early game. It's going to take a while for there to be kill threat outside of some very opportunistic ganking coming through from the Xin Zhao to get Akali and Victor rolling. And this, and again, a bit of ambiguity as to whether that will happen or not. So we'll keep our eyes on how that goes. But that's kind of what Jin Air needs. Sort of just pub stomping, which of course could happen, given that it's a LCK team versus a team relegated from challengers compositionally wise, which is where we always have to give the benefit of the doubt at the professional level. Jin Air, low engage, decent siege, but largely around either a 1-3-1 or perhaps a 4-1 if Linderon gets rolling. Meanwhile, on the side of Reverse Gaming, they have, once again, very strong one-item team fighting, very, very tanky lineup. If Nico gets rolling, some amazing burst combos can happen as well.
I mean, it's pretty insane. You talked about the lack of engage on the side of Jin Air, but you got pretty much a bunch of stuff. I mean, you got the Galio, you got the Alistar, is pretty obvious, but Lee Sin, even the Urgot can get in there and combo that with a nice Pop Blossom. We could see some crazy team fighting, but as you mentioned, got to give the benefit of the doubt over to the Jin Air Green Wings. I don't think they're going to be trying to force themselves into any kind of 5-on-5 team fighting at all. Would most likely just like to split up the map, play this one slow, get Akali and the Victor extremely strong, and then go from there. See that the Rise was also being considered on the side of Reverse Gaming, but decided to go for the Urgot instead. They definitely seem to like their very tanky lineups here.
They knew what they wanted, but let's see what the coaches have to make of that particular draft.
네, 안녕하세요.
Says the coach from Reverse Gaming.
정말 좋았는데 결국에 진에어의 전투력 앞에서 좀 무너졌습니다.
The beginning of the game, you looked like you had a good start, but
기세가 눌리는 모습은
you weren't
아니었거든요.
able to
사실 저희가
make it into a win, but you don't look discouraged at all.
어제 챌린저스 승강전을 패배해서
Just like the commentators
오늘 만약에
mentioned.
That's us.
패배한다면 마지막 경기가 될 것 같아서 사실 저희는 이미 뒤가 없거든요. 그래서
Just like we mentioned the promotion games,
쫄지
if
말고
we lose today, that's going to be pretty much it for us. So we're really trying our very hardest to continue in this tournament, and we're not getting discouraged.
싸움으로 뒤집어 보자라고 했던 것 같습니다.
아, 코치님이
We're just facing them with our guts and all we got.
팍 꽂혔습니다. 진짜 맞아요. 올해가 가기 전에 오늘 경기가 마지막이라면 정말 많은 분들의 팬들 앞에 관계자들의 머릿속에 기억에 남는 경기를 만들어 주셔야죠.
아, 네, 그렇습니다. 저희가 사실 지금 좀 굵직하게
So you really wanted to put on memorable games for the end of 2018, regardless of what happens.
저희 선수들 관심 있으신 분 있으면 개인적으로 연락을 하시건 저에게 연락을 주시면 정말 감사할 것 같습니다.
It's a little bit late to find a new team, but if any other teams are interested in our players, definitely contact us.
아마 코치님 덕분에 선수들이 오늘 마지막 경기가 될지도 모르는 이 경기.
We saw that you constantly say to your players, please do not be nervous and show your best shot. Give it whatever you got.
사실 어제는
So before we enter the second match, do you want to say any other words to your team members? Since we played really poorly yesterday, but I think that was mainly because you guys were so nervous. But this is going to be your last shot to put on a good impression for everybody watching, so do not get nervous. Don't worry about anything. Just have fun out there and show what you got. Show your skills off, because that could matter for your future. So nice to see those words coming from the coach. He knows, kind of as everybody knows, it's the inevitability of it. Reverse Gaming not making it back to Challengers Korea. This is essentially all they've got, and the players, this is the best stage for them to show all their skills off.
Pretty sobering interview, though, basically saying, well, you guys have kind of one more of a stage to show off your skills and potentially draw some action, because, you know, you really fall away in terms of stages to play if you don't make it Challengers Korea.
That's very true. So it looks like we're just about ready to jump into game number 2, guys. Let's see how this main Jin Air roster looks, and if Reverse Gaming can have a bit of fun, throw caution to the wind, and maybe make this series interesting.
Let's go, says the producer in our head, and I'm sure that's what Jin Air and Reverse Gaming are feeling like. Let's see if this early game can be proactive. We've got an Nico on the Rift, and that means double the Alistar. 2 cows. What's going on?
They could both do the cowbell.
That's true. You can do double cowbell. Oh my god,
that.
why are they not in mid? They could have cowbell and also chicken dance.
They could go off.
Cow and chicken, yeah! Holy crap.
Everybody's
cow and
favorite
chicken.
combo. But yeah, they could do like the offbeat too, like bum 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 bum. You know, like
cow and chicken, man. What's This is a missed opportunity.
Why didn't they do it?
Sign them up.
This was your one moment. This could be your last game as a professional. Get in there and play the cowbell.
Well, that is a disappointment to join some
So
of the
sad.
recent disappointments on the reverse gaming side. Junior, though, we have to kind of reverse our, kind of like lose what happened in game number 1, and we can't really compare game 1 to game 2. It's not a flow-on effect. These are 5-man rosters that are being entirely changed. All we can really do after the fact is compare the results, because no real flow-on from game 1 to 2. Very different approach here from the side of Jin Air. Again, we mentioned it. Very tricky comp to pull off. No engage means that short of win lane win game, which is usually enough for, say, solo queue, for example, the win conditions are a bit thin. So let's see how these matchups go, as even though it's range versus melee, again for the Jin Air roster, in the mid lane, it's going to be the phase rush, for a bit more reliability of escaping away from that Galio taunt rather than the Kleptomancy that, honestly, you could have considered.
Yeah, I mean, everybody taking Klepto into Galio as he's kind of just standing there as a melee champion, not clearing the waves out as fast as he used to. You can really take advantage of that, especially with the new Klepto, and that was basically the whole reason that Riot changed it up. They wanted it to be more than only Ezreal on the Kleptomancy, and I guess sometimes Victor that could go for this rune, because in some disadvantageous matchups where it's melee versus range, the range guy can just say, hey, I'm going to get a ton more gold from you, and I don't really have any other thing to go for. Might as well take that. Malrong controlling the river very nicely here. Already got one Scuttle Crab and is on the hunt now for Lee Sin.
Level 2 Xin Zhao right up there with the best in the Rift. I think Pantheon's probably number 1 overall, but Xin Zhao and Camille definitely have an argument as well. Lee Sin, very much a level 3 jungler in comparison. Malrong smiting away the big Raptor, doing a lot of counter jungling. Means a lot more isolated solo lane matchups, and I think Urgot's probably the happiest about when it comes to that, because Urgot versus Kali, very happy stuff for Urgot early.
He's having fun, but they don't really have eyes on where the Xin Zhao is, so he has to play pretty safely after abusing that early game. And even the Lee Sin is just pinging around. He's not sure if this guy is here. Looks like he has checked the brush now and knows that he should be safe. Saw him go over a ward that is in the river, so knew that he wasn't in his red buff. That also means that the Urgot, for now, can play pretty aggressively up on the top side.
Grace, surprised, like we all are, every time you play against this new Galio with his 400 dash speed increase on the hero's, not the hero's entrance, the Just Sponge, I should say. Takes a pretty bad trade there, but he's honestly on his way back very shortly. Had no mana as it began. Seeing Aurora use that pressure, though, I like to see Az and Aurora play together as well as they are right now to try to get some camps back for the Lee Sin. Xin Zhao's going to be here to join very soon. We're getting some comms behind us. I'm sure this is all being communicated on both sides. They know the Victor's out of mana, so Galio's certainly going to be more helpful than Victor if they do 2v2.
I like the way that Malrong just pushes him entirely away from the Raptors. We all know what Lee Sin can do in terms of trickiness and escapability. Maybe go in there, smite a Raptor, get away somehow. So wanted to push him away first before clearing that up. And yeah, Malrong having the better of the jungle so far after that aggressive start on the Xin Zhao. Obviously knew what matchup he was going to go into when he decided to go for the Xin Zhao. Here's an Alistar coming into the mid lane, and oh boy, Grace in a lot of trouble here. Gonna be knocked up. There's the Ignite. The Alistar does get stunned, but it's not gonna matter. First blood goes over to Aurora.
And the players are heeding the words of their coach. Nicely coordinated between the members of Reverse Gaming. Well-deserved first kill as well. Grace, so greedy. You know these Victors are desperate to stick around for 1150 gold, get more CS. Don't want to go back and have to buy things like an Amp Tome like we're seeing. They want to get that first enchant, and alone, the Nico able to push and able to allow the Alistar to roam. Great play from the side of Reverse.
As you mentioned, we see it there, Disgrace, a little bit too far up the lane. Knew that they needed one extra auto to get the kill, and it was in fact Nugget that did pick up the kill with his Ignite and picked up the first blood. So lots of bloodthirsty supports here. We've seen that it doesn't necessarily help out the team when the player does, the support player does pick up that first blood, though.
Doesn't also help out my Lava Award nomination in Grace. He Should have been a bit more safety first, but greedy for picking up that first augment. So first blood goes the way of Reverse Gaming. One of the rare good news stories for them recently. They are 0-4 in the last 24 hours. They lost 3-0 yesterday in the Challengers Korea 2019 promotions. Reverse Gaming, well, the pro status is definitely there. Urgot's coming down to try to help out, see what's going on.
No flash here on Aurora, but we did have Urgot very nearby with no flash on Grace, and we all know that Victor not very mobile. So I thought maybe they were going to make that kill happen, but looks like it was well communicated, and Grace never got close enough to the Galio to really be in any danger. Should be just fine here in the mid lane for now.
I confirm that compared to before, where Galio had a lot of different builds, Rod of Ages Interluden's probably the most popular. It's been every game going into the same build path, going for the Proto Belt just to help with the wave clear, like we've mentioned a couple of times now, so people just tuning in get over the fact that the one thing that was tuned down was the wave clear, always upped into that Proto Belt first in order to get the pushing help, and then from there full ability power, and you can have a bit more options when it comes to the further. That's cool to know. And this Nico bot lane does seem to be having a lot less teething problems than our Nico mid lanes. Every other Nico who's in this tournament has been mid lane and honestly struggled more often than not. This time we're seeing Nico, despite not having a prep support, let's say a Karma when it comes to minion wave control, just play safely back, and while he might be down half a minion wave or so, still doing very well, and he allowed his Alistar to roam as well.
Yeah, Nico can be very powerful on the combination kind of strategy as well. Even if you're not prepping the minions, Alistar good for at least setting up the super easy route and allowing you to at least grab a flash out of someone if they don't want to die to your pop bubble. So can work out in that way, I suppose, as well. Lee Sin hanging around the top side here. He's not level 6, though. He's also going to check up there, maybe giving that information off, as it looks like Malrong trying to go for this Mountain Drake early on.
I've been a huge fan of Malrong's pathing so far in this game. Been super aggressive, but on point. It's not even a Gromp to answer what was a invade timing there, and Malrong, a long-time jungler now. Despite his very tender age, he's still, I believe, 18 years of age. Over here, he's still able to do some pretty creative stuff to play around with expectations. That means they continue to trade up. Lee Sin finds no answering camp. He's down the better part of 4 camps, and now also other advantages like the Drake going the way of Jin. So even though it hasn't been felt on the scoreboard, this has been a great jungling debut for Malrong on Jin.
Yeah, it's definitely obvious when you look at the extra Drake as well as the creep score that we're looking at here. He's way far ahead, so props to him. Definitely one of the other names we were talking about in terms of this lineup that could impress going into 2019 for the Jin Air Green Wings. What is going to be the next play? Lots of movement on the side of Reverse Gaming, as it seems like everybody wants to invade the left side of the jungle, including the Galio. Really want to just pick off this blue buff, it seems.
Blue buff going to be stolen away just to find something, right? A blue buff steal at least is something your coach could point as for what has otherwise been some very good stuff on the side of Jin Air. Linderung just playing out his lane. It's Kali, so you know that he's just chill till Gunblade time. On the top side, and Urgot, a tough man takedown. It is a greedier build, has gone for, like you can see, the Cull here to really help with the second item completion. That means there's moments like this. Could die.
Yeah, definitely could go for this one. Does he have that ultimate? Yes, he does. Gonna just finish that off. Second he landed that Shuriken and there was no mana and basically half health for the Urgot. There was just no escape for him. Super easy kill. Definitely a blemish there for Min, but nicely played for Linderung.
He's holding on to so much gold. I didn't even factor that in as a possibility because he was holding on to, you remember, just a Ruby Crystal at the time. Now it's a Phage and a Null Magic Mantle. He's so greedy to push in and then uses his dash aggressively with no mana. That's actually, honestly, a huge mistake in the trade. If he had held on to his dash, he wouldn't have been as susceptible. Even with Ignite up, ends up just using it under turrets. So really a huge misplay in the 1v1. Leaves egg all over the face of the Urgot top lane.
Yeah, at least Linderung, I suppose, he has practiced this Akali quite a bit. Don't think he was ever known for the very aggressive, assassin-y type top laners, but that's good news, especially going into a meta such as the one that we're looking at now, very aggressive. You're going to need players like your top laner to be able to play Akali if you want to flex that first pick Akali, if you want to have those options. An ability to throw it over to Linderung You see Malrong now trying to go for this Rift Herald, but it is going to be spotted.
Like we said, New Age Rift Herald time is 10 to 12 minutes, no later than that, even if you can't get it down before 14 to get the full cash in. You want to fight for it now, and this is an epic fight.
Okay, they really want this one. Smite goes over 100 gold, as well as the Rift Herald goes to Malrong. As well, it is Tom Kent. He gets there a lot faster than the Alistair, so able to make that just 100%. Already, Linderong had kind of zoned out Min, who didn't even have his flash available, swapped to Exhaust just to try to do something in the fight. Probably would have gone the way of Jinair anyway.
But still, you can see very simply, it's worth investing for Jinair, at least based on their shot calling, 5 members to get the Rift Herald. The Rift Herald priority way up with all the different options you can give and the reliable amount of gold. If you get that charge in pre-14 minutes, 2 minutes to get a setup here, you still want to get your deep wards down and know where the enemy is before you summon it. You don't want to be too greedy and then have, you know, those Rift Heralds. We remember the handful, they were just awful. You don't want to allow that to happen where you just put it down and the minions kill it, or one champion can just walk up to the backside, get an auto win, and it just dies. So given that, you still want to get a good setup for it, but plenty of time for Jinair to get set up, and right now just looking at some more trading between the mid laners.
Grace not having an easy time here, going to throw down the Chaos Storm, and so Aurora not really knowing where that Xin Zhao was, didn't want to overcommit, obviously had to wait for his cooldowns as well, and decides, well, hey, he's not going to get caught out there. Grace did dodge the Justice Punch, but he was still in range of that taunt, and with Proto Belts, that's going to be a huge amount of burst damage that some of these squishy mid laners that used to have a decently easy time against the Galio might have trouble with now with the new dash speed.
But now there's 2 augments, so the movement speed Q augment will allow him to keep his distance a bit more reliable. He's still going to be, like you say, at least one window. Take advantage of some sort of dive or some sort of all-in. Speaking of all-ins and dives, Nugget and Az.
Not again.
It can't be worse, right?
Okay, well, that was an interesting play. Tried to knock away Nova to stop that consume, but
His
here
TP's
comes
gonna
the
complete.
TP. Akali's in there first, and the huge burst damage comes out from the Ezreal ult. Can he land that Urgot ult onto the Akali? It looks like no. The Urgot's going to die first and foremost. This is going to be a fantastic timing for the Rift Herald. 45 seconds before 14 minutes, we'll be able to get the charge and those plates off of the turret.
And they want to give all the gold to Stitch, all local gold going to Ezreal. 320, baby. It's not quite 420, but you'll take it. Can walk up here. Because there's only one champion, remember there's no extra platings coming in because that's based on the amount of champions close to the turret. While the turret platings go down, it's only the one from the Ezreal. So nicely done by the side of Jinair. And they get an Infernal too. Everything's coming up Jinair Green Wings with the A squad subbed in.
Really like the headbutt, but there's really no follow-up. The Nico was never in range. The Akali TP's first. From there, you know, it's pretty much GG in terms of this fight.
We haven't got to talk about that change much, but there's no canceling TPs anymore. So the moment you see the flanking TPs, you're going with it. The Lee Syndrome is there with the TPs, and fun to see there, but it was just so decisive. That's really good to see from Linderong, who, again, was not so good at spreading his leads on Darius and champions like that. Speaking of spreading leads, how about trying to get some crab for dinner?
Well, Min is 0-2, but at least able to land a nice amount of damage onto Akali to at least discourage them from continuing the dive. But that does mean that Min gets extremely low. Linderong could consider a dive as his ultimate nears getting off cooldown here.
Still feel really bad about where you're at in this game. Remember, he has the Cull that's still not cashed in on the Urgot and half a Black Cleaver along with some magic resist. That could have been more immediate items, and he might not have died to that all-in if he could play to his items a bit more cleanly. A lot of respect being shown by Stitch and the Tahm Kench. Again, can't really grade them on the bot lane. It is Ezreal Tahm Kench, so not too much to speak about there. But everything coming up Jinair so far in the early game. Linderong been the most impressive to me, a player that, like you say, middling to kind of lower tier reputation outside of some Darius games. He's clearly got the Akali on point, and that's good to see.
Interesting that Malrong didn't stay for that gank. I think if he was on the far side of that brush, he could have charged on into Min, who does have his flash, but they have a lot of vision on the top side for where the Lee Sin might be. At least knows he's not close. I suppose with their lead, they just don't want to be over-aggressive. I would rather just continue to sail along this path.
Definitely no harm, no foul for Jinair. They feel really confident. It's not like Hanwha Life, who were, let's scale, otherwise we're in deep trouble in games 1 and 3 of their loss to KG. This time, think Jin feel good about where they are now. Going forward, they have more balanced amounts of damage because they have an AD carry and also the AP threats. Aurora, oh boy, the wall there was...
So it's a thick boy and a thick wall.
We've seen Justice punch into the wall before, but now it's faster, so it's more hilarious.
Yeah. Bop in his head, basically. Finished Trinity Force here for the Ezreal. And, well, they wanted to go in on that one, but missed the tongue lick, so not going to happen. Az gets caught here by Grace, but Grace, who's caught in here with who? Grace, really nice flash. Perfectly over the wall. Great celerity on that one. Can Aurora get away from this one this time around? No, it's going to be blocked here by the Xin Zhao, and the follow-up's going to be as easy as you'd like. 2 for 0. That means that they will continue the push here in the mid lane.
I needed that one just to bring that Grace reputation back into the middle. I think he bought himself some respect tier lava award to going to Grace. Able to get away, they turn it around. Now they want a turret as well to demolish proc. Don't know if it was actually finished there. I don't believe it was. Not 100% clear on that one. But most of the yes, the demolish you can see was disengaged. I assume that was from Nova in the bot side. He's going for the Glacial Augment. Didn't speak about it because it hasn't been relevant, but has the chase power. Watch this replay here. Now, Grace probably shouldn't have been going for a lazy walk through the jungle. And ooh, control ward. I'll clear that out. But he's able to chase down and kill with the ult there. But the cleanse flash was actually pretty damn slick, and it meant that Malron could come back. Grace could come back, and a kill was registered for the side of Jin.
Hey, you can see the mechanics are there, maybe where his decision-making needs a little bit more work. I mean, the earlier gank was him being a little bit greedy, trying to get that extra gold when he wasn't necessarily safe. This time around, though, the flash, really perfect over the wall. You can see the timing is also perfect there, so definitely has the skills. Can't wait to see what he can do when he develops into a more mature player.
And I think this squad will need time. We can't, of course, glean too much from just a single game against Reverse Game, not even a full series, because they were playing their other squad in game number 1. Now, I take opposition to us completely crowning this the A squad, because I think technically the coach said we've got an A and a B squad. They didn't technically name which one was which, but on name value, this one certainly deserves it. From the side of Jin Air, so far they've certainly been more controlled than what we saw in our first game. No terrible turret dives just yet, and Stitch's popping off, but he does also use his E aggressively. See how this trade ends up.
Oh, that's a lot of poking damage. Even forces that ultimate out. You can see how quick Stitch is on the play. Knows that there's an opportunity to at least force the ultimate away from the Alistar, gets it there. Even the Nico forced to flash away from that one just to survive. So.
Always love to see some aggression from Ezreal players in the laning phase. Obviously, the tail end of the laning phase as 11 minutes in, but Stitch, again, good reputation this player. Built it over in the LMS for G-Rex, putting in some great carry performance. Even at international events, looked very, very controlled in spite of his team's struggles. So Stitch moves forward. Stitch feels good, and reverse gaming very much in the back foot. Feels like out of nowhere you look away and you might have missed it. It's a 5,000 gold and 3 Drakes at 19 minutes to Jin Air.
And it's those empowered first Drakes, one of each, right? You got the first Mountain, first Infernal, first Ocean. So everything's kind of popping off on the side of Jin Air right now. Only the 1 kill to the side of the reverse gaming against a relatively weak Victor when you've got so much CC, especially early game. So no harm, no foul there. Yeah, this is kind of what we were expecting. Just kind of judging Jin Air's other roster, other lineup more so than expecting this to be a super close game.
But there hasn't been too many games that have gone to expectation where the obviously better team just crushed the enemy and there was really no comebacks. Even some of our games that were 2-0 series ended up being competitive at times. This second game hasn't been competitive. It's been pretty much controlled by Jin Air. It's never been in doubt so far, and again, I use it more as a learning mission. You might say, of course, Jin Air is going to win, but it's cool to know that, once again, another Lee Sin doesn't go for Tiamat. Feels like junglers can't afford that 125 gold increase compared to this mainlining warrior. And the gold efficiency that always brung. We see AS, despite the visual lag, just trying to look around for the red buff. I know
Lee
it looks
Sin
comical.
got some new buffs. I didn't know that was possible.
Echo style.
He's hopping around the rift.
We can corner break all the days.
Definitely looked funny. This Ezreal is kind of popping off right now. He's 1-0-2 and working on that Muramana here at 20 minutes 30.
Trinity Force, actually. I haven't seen too many Trinity Force Ezreals recently. I mean, Iceborne Gauntlet with all the AD threats on both sides, but looks at the enemy and says, well, it's just Urgot Lee Sin. I'll feel pretty good about going for the Trinity Force. Got it at a nice time as well. The Stitch, the farm bounty, the kill bounty, everything looking fine for the Ezreal. And the Akali, well, she's got more items than the enemy, but probably not enough to take down a Galio.
Still thinking about it. The Scalio hasn't fully left, and he reveals himself. Misses the cannon. Oh boy, Linderong. Wrong time for us to watch you.
Got all of them, yeah!
No, he missed that one in the front.
What do you got against Linderong, man?
I don't know, man.
That guy is a thumbs-up guy.
It's just something.
He seems good.
Seems good. You know, we'll see.
I don't know if
Akali's okay.
I don't know if Twitch emote jokes work when we're not on Twitch, but anyway. Let's move along to this Jin Air closeout here as Valdez gets the late onset joke understanding.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Nova walks in. The map control is still here. The vision control from Jin Air, while it hasn't been wards in every camp, it feels like in this meta that's not really possible, and it's much more about being in the right place at the right time. Malrang has been that kind of jungler, and it's kind of been the new age. Ning, for example, leading the way, with just being in the right place at the right time, being able to flex on the enemy. Speaking of flexing on enemy, the Urgot's moving as fast as 6 legs can take.
Yeah, I kind of heard groans from the Korean desk. Oh, we got some action down here. Stitch, he bit off way more than he could chew, as everybody else on his team is basically chasing an Urgot all the way through the rift. The flash to make sure that he'll get the kill in the end. And the Chaos Storm. Really wanted to make sure this guy was going to die. No hope for that Urgot.
Yeah, the Urgot was dead, obviously, way earlier, but why did Stitch walk up and die with both summoners up in the enemy jungle while the rest of his team was on the Bloodlust? That was the first blunder in positioning from Stitch, and also Jin Air in this game number 2, and we already have to look forward. We think that Jin Air probably has one in the bag. We're going to watch the replay of Stitch. He's had a lot of Bloodlust in this game. He only goes forward with his use of the Arcane Shift, and in a tournament where Wung is back, the Wung direction is what we will say about that Ezreal Arcane Shift that time. Sorry there.
He just, it's like he feels so strong compared to what he would normally be in a very close game, and he's like, I see a champion, I'm going to go kill a champion. Meanwhile, the rest of his team is nowhere to be found up on the top side. Not that it was their fault, but yeah, definitely a question mark on that one. You got to be solid against the very strong teams and the weaker teams, right? You know, maybe Jin Air isn't the top or the bottom rung team. Maybe it's Battle Comics and now Sandbox Gaming.
Hanwha Life.
Maybe it's Hanwha Life. Maybe it's someone else, and you don't want to be in that position where you're trying to avoid relegation, but you're playing against the 10th place team and Stitch keys forward and throws it away, you know?
Speaking of,
got to be careful. You have to play measured play. It's part of being a mature professional player. I'm not trying to call him out here. Maybe that sounded a little bit too aggressive. It was just the one play, but just an example. We'll have to continue watching and see what happens in the future.
It's the KeSPA Cup, and I think a lot of fans know it's food for thought in many ways. Is it going to be the best team in 2019 if you win this tournament? For KT Rolster, they did win Summer, and they were Korea's biggest hope at Worlds, so in that case it was a premonition for ES. Ever, of course, they couldn't translate that too much apart from qualifying for LCK in 2016. But it's new rosters, so I think it is a lot more consequential than it was previously, where it was kind of, is your team an off-season or not, was the question of KeSPA Cup. We delayed it till December to see new rosters, which of course the fans want to see. They want to see a 2019 preview. But also, there is more stakes because these are the rosters going forward. Will Stitch only go forward with his Arcane Shifts? Because the answer so far is yes.
Well, this time he does have a Tahm Kench, so we'll see how this does work out. Unfortunately, it looks like maybe Nova's the one in trouble. Stitch, great mechanics to get out of this one. Lots of damage on the backside. Look at that Ezreal. It's insane. How is Tahm Kench still alive?
Is he going to get out?
What is going on? He's still alive after all that. And 2 kill steals go over to Linderong as he makes his way into the fight in the end. Wow.
Uzi, eat your heart out. How is this Tahm Kench still alive? No Vayne here. We're going to have to watch the replay. It looked like everyone was passing it off on the side of Reverse Gaming, and no one takes it down. Definitely going to have the I don't know, the Baron for sure going the way of Jin Air, and just the egg on the face of 5 members. A Gandhi Award, I guess, goes to the side of Reverse Gaming, because I have no idea how Tahm Kench lived. I lost my words. How could I not?
You know, he's tanky. He has a QSS, I suppose. Let's take a look. Let's just watch Tahm Kench.
Remember that Urgot answers Tahm Kench as well, because he can just, and the gray health doesn't matter. He falls super low. And did he QSS out of the ult
Yeah,
and then
he did.
walk away?
He did.
Holy moly! That is the next level.
I mean, we had a question mark about Nova, but hey, the man is just on fire tonight. So there are moments where Nova shows up and we're like, wow, what is this guy doing? We've had those moments with this Rakan. And well, now we have another one with this Tahm Kench.
You know the old insult about this guy has to be mad? I think all of Reverse Gaming has to be pretty mad
Yeah.
that there was no death on the Tahm Kench. That's really not what you wanted. In what could be this final game of these 5 players playing together. Now the Baron buff is there. Now it feels like the I's have been dotted, the T's have been crossed, and it's looking to break the base of Jin Air, looking to end this one against Reverse Gaming.
Stitch gonna have his fun, no doubt, now that he is even safer. Doesn't have his flash, but he's super strong now. There's the flash actually out of Min. He really wants it, but the Devourer is there this time around. Can you do it a second time, Nova? He's still on the run, but this time Elysian is gonna get him in the back, and now the Galio follow-up comes in. Balrog in a tough spot, but Linderong is so fed alongside Stitch, and that's gonna put the nail in the coffin. Super easy to close that one out on the backside, although, you know, RIP for Nova.
RIP indeed, RIP Pop Blossom. Unfortunately, he popped the ultimate and couldn't get anywhere near the fight. Ended up ulting nothing. The shield not going to be big enough. And pre-30 minutes, this could be the end for Reverse Gaming.
Definitely seems that way, especially with the Ezreal W just chunking down those turrets, and Stitch adding some more damage to his total. See, you're not going to give him that extra one with a 2-shot barrage, but he goes down anyway. They're even going to try to kill Nugget here. Might as well buff your stats, and there you go. GG. The pretty easy 2-0 victory do go over to the Jin Air Green Wings was what we were expecting, but no, it's definitely fun to see what this new Jin Air roster had to offer.
New look in more ways than one. People can admire their new shirts here no longer again. The white shirts with the fake ties. This is the new black shirt, serious Jin Air. After their roster change, zooming in on Stitch, probably the biggest name addition to the roster at the AD carry role. Too aggressive in this game, but was that a I'm facing Reverse Gaming, I'm only getting it to debut once on Jin Air, or is that a bigger problem? That is to be decided on a future day. Sadly for Reverse Gaming, they are out 2-0 of this tournament. They go down 5-0 over the course of 2 days on patch 824B. They were able to heed the voices of their coach. They definitely looked a lot more ready to fight in this game number 2 after kind of watching game 1 fall away from them. But Reverse Gaming is out. Jin Air will push forward, and they will face GC Busan, I believe, in the next round.
I believe so. I believe you are correct on that one. Don't want to say 100% as I don't have the bracket right in front of me, but sounds right from what we were talking about yesterday. You can see that the Reverse Gaming coach still discussing some of what could have been done better. A coach all the way down to the end of it when he easily could have just walked away and, you know, said, this is done. No, he's there still coaching his team, which is nice to see. Wonder who we're going to get to see in the interview on the side of the Jin Air Green Wings. I feel like maybe Nova or maybe perhaps not Stitch. I don't know. I'm not really sure. There was not really one person who stood out in a huge way from that team.
I defer to KeSPA and Afrika on that one as we go back into the replays. This was a great moment for Reverse Gaming. Lovely roam timing from the Alistar with the Nico able to 1v2 in the bot lane, and we thought, okay, could this be another famous result? Sadly, Min had some real struggles on the Urgot. The solo kill, it should never happen in the Akali matchup, but Greedy with his buy timing and taken down. This was a fantastic TP play. This is the sort of play where you say, okay, replicate that in LCK 2019, and maybe there are good news stories for the side of Jin Air. Grace, a bit good, a bit bad, kind of the story of his career so far in this particular game, but again, it's not going to be decided today. We will see Jin Air play again in the KeSPA Cup in a best of 3. They chase down, and to me, I don't make the decisions. Malrung was probably the most consistently impressive player. Really liked his pathing in the early game that really set behind Az on this Lee Sin.
Poor Stitch, man. Didn't want to have that happen on camera, but either way, you know, his mechanics are really strong on the Ezreal. That's obvious, and definitely will be one of those upper level AD carries, I'd say, in the LCK. Could be another shining light of an AD carry for the side of Jin Air. They've had those before in the form of Teddy. He's hoping to fill those shoes, I suppose, and come back to Korea.
He kited the wolves even. Oh, Tahm Kench. Yeah, the Pop Blossom here was probably missed in the call. That was first time Nico. on the top side, unfortunately, there. But I guess when you have AD players playing majors, we've seen plenty of crazy stuff. The Vladimir days were definitely a lot of face palms for us, even on LCK level. Ezreal is just the most broken in terms of damage dealt to champions. Almost out-damaged the entire enemy team. Let's put it together. 8, 14, 23, 28, 31. About 33,000 damage at most compared to 27.5 just from Ezreal.
Close.
Riot, you need to tune down the Ezreal. please tune them down.
There you have it, guys. The official word from Papa Smithy. Riot, tune down the numbers.
Ezreal confirmed busted at the professional level. Even though the damage DPM numbers aren't the full story, his numbers are too high. He can't have.
It's also the turret stuff too, right?
But it can't be turret pushing and cooldown refresh and safest champion and he bursts reliably with his ultimate. Too many ands.
You put him with Tom Kench and he's just invulnerable and does 1 billion damage.
When I get to the fifth
you
amazing
never want that
point,
kind of champion, you know?
You get to the 5th amazing point about Ezreal, and that's too many amazing.
So, guys, we are going to go over to the interview here with Hyungyung and one of our members from Jinair.
안녕하세요.
Oh, it's going to be Chungo from the first game, the backup or maybe main mid laner for Jinair.
세이지 선수, 켈린 선수 그리고 청고 선수까지 1세트 데뷔전을 너무 멋지게 치르셨어요. 승리 소감 어떠세요?
Not only you, but several players came in here into the offline events and had a fantastic performance. There were a lot of mistakes, but we were still able to get the victory, so I'm happy with the debut.
네.
원래 난입 스웨인이 더 많이 나오는 걸로 알고 있는데 좀 어떤 차이가 있나요?
그냥 돈 버는 거랑 이속 빨라지는 거. 네, 제가 돈 버는 걸 좀 좋아해서.
그리고 좀 스피디한 경기를 더 좋아하시나 봐요.
네.
Yeah, so I took the Kleptomancy there, and I just like getting more gold even if I'm playing Swain and against Galio, you know.
스웨인을 드셨군요. 이유가 확실하네요.
It makes sense, and it's a rune that I really enjoy in the game. You know, it feels good to gather a lot of gold.
돌아다니면서 선취점을 낸 것도 인상 깊었는데 좀 켈린 선수의 날카로운 촉 같은 거.
You had really good teamwork with Kellen,
그냥 다
the new support level player.
네, 서폿이 잘 붙어준 것 같아요.
Is that because Kellen has really good
두 번째
game
세트
sense?
같은 경우에는 다른 선수들 전원 교체하면서
He's definitely one of the best supporters I've played with.
청구 선수는 지켜보셨을 텐데
네.
어떻게 보셨나요?
뭐
All 5 members have changed.
그랬던 것 같은데.
What did you think about their play?
잘했던 것 같아요. 네, 네. 스크림에서.
You know, I wish I could have played, but I was excited to see some of the other members of my team get on the Rift.
처음으로 이렇게 유니폼이 바뀌었어요. 어떻게 유니폼을 좀
So I gotta mention, it's the first time showing off these new uniforms. What do you think about the new uniforms? I feel like I'm a college student wearing the letter jacket, you know?
I mean, they were high school students before, so.
They've upgraded, yeah. So it doesn't really feel like I'm a pro gamer. I'm more of like a college student style, you know? But definitely looks very fresh and new. So I think a lot of fans will definitely like it.
Hey, a lot of our audience, college students, so
Yeah.
they can now become Jina fans.
It fits.
청구 선수 8강 상대 어떠신가요?
So in the round of 8, you're going up against GC Busan, confirmed. How do you feel about that matchup?
좀 재밌을 것 같아요.
재밌을 것 같아요. MVP와의 경기는 좀
Some of those players in GC Busan, we were playing together on previous teams, so I'm really looking forward to that matchup.
이 부분은 조심해야겠다라는 걸 좀 느끼셨나요?
But they're a lot stronger than we expected.
저의 움직임만.
Any players we got to be careful of?
저만 잘하면 이길 수 있을 것 같아요.
돈을 너무 밝힌다던가
네.
그런 움직임을 좀 조심해야겠네요.
Well, he just says, I think I should be careful of my own play. All the other players on my team are playing very well. Because I only care about collecting money with Kleptomancy.
There's a Nasus main right there.
There you go.
감사합니다.
He's a gold player. Not a KDA player or a team player, a gold player.
Well, we aspire to be gold players. We are Iron 5 after all.
Ah, it's so hard to climb.
I know! I can't get promoted out of Iron 5. What's going on, Riot?
How does it feels like it's almost bugged or something.
I know.
Iron 5?
Well, Jinair Green Wings ended up, over the course of 10 players, being better than what Reverse Gaming put out in this particular game. Like we say, GC Busan. So, Malrung versus Ryan. That sounds like a pretty sick jungle matchup.
Yeah.
Or, well, in fact, BC's versus Ryan. We'll have to wait and see. Loved GC Busan's play. They were really good with Sora on the top side as well. Don't know what's going to come. of that particular best of 3. That's going to be on the 24th. So the day before Christmas Eve. One of your presents going to be Genevieve's GC. If that's a European thing, then it's all about the presents being released one day early, right? As here's a present for our real early boards tomorrow. We definitely have birds. As tomorrow, we have a pretty sick set of matches. Dumb One Gaming. People said they're the Scrim Gods that were beating Worlds teams. They're going to play against Brian Blade, the former Kongdon Monster. But the second match, everyone's been asking for it. Every chat comment is, where is SK Telecom T1? Well, good news.
What are they playing?
They're here tomorrow. If they beat down APK Prince, which on paper is SKT Super Team versus 0 and 14 Challenger Team. That's changed. Now it's going to be kind of the best of the rest. The Ragtag 5 members with Mickey in the mid lane, Ixu in the top lane, outside of APK Prince, against the SK Telecom T1 Dream Team.
Yeah.
I got lots of questions like, who's the starting 5 for SKT? Faker will be there. They do have Gori enabled to play in this tournament. He's not currently registered on the KeSPA site for LCK 2019, but that could change. So it's probably going to be Faker. The other 4, we're not 100% sure who's going to be playing for the side of SKT. And just knowing what the 2 squads are is going to be so interesting. That is the match people want to see. If they want to see the SKT games as fast as possible, it's coming soon.
It's coming tomorrow, guys. So same time, same place, 5 p.m. KST if you do want to see the Dumb One game. And then after that, we will have the SKT game as well. So, guys, that's going to do it for us. Pretty quick day today. Was a lot of fun. But we'll see you guys tomorrow for those awesome games.
Get ready.